Hello and welcome to another episode of the Footy Form Guide podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Walley, joined as always by my good mate, Harro. How are you, mate?
Not too bad, Wally. We got things back on track last week after our one sort of down week. We might have overtrained or something the week before. We had a bit of an off one, but much better going last week, mate.
Heavy training load, but we're good to go, mate. Well, we'll get stuck straight into that because there was a lot of highlights and always some lowlights, of course, as well. But let's start with all the positives from the punt, Harro.
Well, obviously the first thing we talk about is the best bet, which was the Brisbane Lions at the line. So that was pleasing. We kind of picked out some Hawthorn disposal guys in the Collingwood game, which a lot of them went over. So you would have done well following that. Just looking out elsewhere. We pointed out Tom Stewart and Smith under their disposal lines, and also for Cherry to dominate against Geelong, and that all worked out really well. And some of our total points picks actually went really well too, and that was like the Swans versus Melbourne. 186.5 were over there. It went way over, as well as like McInerney disposals. That went well. And the unders in the night game up at the Gold Coast with a high line, they were all some of our better picks, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. What did we miss, Harro?
So I felt like we were a little bit unlucky. We were on your Hawkies, mate, and the under, and Collingwood kind of spoiled that by kicking 15-3. So I know on expected scoring, Hawthorn were 40 ahead, and it should have made up at about 155 points. So consider ourselves a little unlucky there. Where else did we miss, mate? Just looking through some of the notes that you left from West Coast. That was a bit of a shocker, mate. We were on West Coast against Richmond, and that didn't happen, and neither did the total points either. So that was probably our worst result for the round. Everything else not too bad, mate.
That was the one I don't think anyone really saw coming, and I think West Coast fans would be shaking their heads, going, how did we lose that? When you look at the teams, when you look at we're at home, anyway.
I'll tell you one thing, Wally. It was always going to happen, this. Richmond got looked after by the umpires.
Well, mate, it's taken, 7 years? I don't know, 5, 7, however many years.
Yeah.
So they finally got looked after, and away from home in the West too. That is bizarre.
But there was a big blow-up, wasn't there, the week before about how they'd been getting treated by the umps. And then, sure enough, like the very next week, they get – and I'm not saying that West Coast would have won if Richmond didn't get, help from the umpires or whatnot. I'm not trying to say it was the whole reason or anything like that. Well done to Richmond, but they did get very well looked after.
And they deserved it, let's be honest. And the other thing, Harro, mate, this is 5 years late for the square up, just quietly. Yeah. I mean, it's been going on for about 8, but I reckon that we've been talking about it for years since we started this pod. Anyway, mate, look, I'll tell you what, speaking about like lowlights, you guys got a whiteboard in your house for all your strengths and weaknesses, Harro? Is there?
Yes.
Do you have,
imagine that.
You said to me, imagine coming home and seeing the wife's strengths and weaknesses for you. Jeez, mine would be grim, mate. I tell you what.
Hey, Wally, I'll tell you, I'll give you your strength straight up. And I've had dinner at your house before. Cooking is a strength in the Wall household when it comes to Michael cooking. Give you that.
Yes, yeah. Definitely having dinner at my house, my wife would write strengths, the cooking, weaknesses, doesn't know when to stop the drinking. I would have thought Harro at dinner. But no, mate, that story became almost farcical when you hear about it all, and it's an Oz kicker dad and all this, and came in and takes a photo, and then there's fakes. Like, everybody would do this stuff, and like I've heard some journos almost like, and Tony Jones on the Footy Show, TJ was like, "Oh, but don't you think poor, Ben Mackay, he's had enough," and they're both, mate, it's not the other teams. Like, it's not their job to go, "Oh, do you know what? He's had a tough week, so maybe we should make him feel better on our whiteboard." If they don't think he's got any strengths, he's got no strengths, mate. Like, get over it. Be better. Like, seriously.
I'll tell you what his strength is. His strength is his manager, because he got himself a pretty good deal, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he did definitely all the strength there is at the negotiation table. There's been a few of those over the journey, and Harro, he'd be pretty close to the top of the list. We were talking about this too. I reckon if we had have got him the year we were fighting Essendon to get him, and he chose Essendon, we probably would have had to given away, like, I can't even remember if it was free agency or not, but if it was a trade, we would have had to give away our top pick, which ended up being Nick Watson. But instead, we got Barras and Battle. So who's going better? But he might have been a free agency. I don't remember enough about him. He was on and off the radar quickly. I'm just glad we escaped it. Anyway, mate, we're going to get into the selection table because I've got some ins and outs this week, which I'm looking forward to. The first in, I've said this before, it's the showdown, Harro. Mate, just when we speak about, are they a bit off the boil? Where are both teams at? Hawthorn, Geelong, like, is that a better modern rivalry? Is it still Carlton, Collingwood? Oh, they hate each other in the West. Nah, this is the biggest rivalry in sport. These two teams hate each other. The fan bases hate each other. They produced one of the best quarters of footy I've seen. It was incredible. It was so good, and it was everything you could have asked for. It was just a shame it was buried on a Friday night. And I think that the AFL have rocks in their head if they don't think that the rest of the country want to watch this. At least the other footy states. This deserves to be standalone. Victorians want to watch this. WA, we want to watch it. Anybody that likes footy wants to watch the showdown every year. Just give it a Friday night. I love the Friday night feature of it. I love giving it a primetime slot because it deserves it. Just give it its own one next year, for crying out loud. Do it all and have. I would have, Harro. Do you know what? Get the producers in there. Get Bear or whoever at Channel 7 and go give him a task for the week and go give us the ultimate 5-minute hype reel. We're going to lead this. We're going to have extra coverage. We're going to have both presses after the game. Really make a big deal about it because SA is such a huge thing. They give us gather round. The AFL doesn't do that. SA, Adelaide put on gather round, and they're the reason it's great. They deserve this. I'm really passionate. And the comments to play it at the MCG, I laugh at that shit. Played at probably the best viewing ground in the country, and just let's really, really celebrate this fixture. I won't go any more about it because, as you can probably tell, I love it. I reckon I might even go over for it next year.
Oh, that's talk.
Yeah, well, I love Adelaide. I'll go over. I'll do the never tear us apart with a Porth scarf. I'll put a Darren Jarman vintage Adelaide jumper on my back. We'll fucking get around them. Let's do it, both teams. Can't wait.
I got one about that game, Wally. And who do you reckon would have had Berry as their super coach captain over the weekend? He's had 160 points, I think. But also, I'm not sure if it's been talked about, but he came within one of breaking the tackle record in a game, which, considering it's not even a wet game or anything like that, to have 19 tackles is fair play to Berry, a guy who I haven't really rated and just played an absolute blinder.
Harry, you remember last year, I spoke about the start of this year, I put some of these bets on. The bookies offer markets of 10 goals in a match, 20 tackles in a match and all of that. And I have a look. And I realised that I didn't put it on this year. So when he missed the 20, I was like, phew, because that would have been a sick beat. Because last year I think it was $21 when we put it on. So I missed it this year. Anyway, all good. Another in, I can't believe I'm saying this, Champion Data's latest player ratings list. I give it to them, but credit where credit's due. Now, it's never going to be perfect. No list is. Even one that's driven by data still can't be perfect because there is opinion involved. But I'll give you this 10. There's one player I would have in it, and I will say this. Nick Dacos isn't in it. I would have Nick in it. I think Nick has played some great footy this year, and I think he's in the best 10 players. I don't care what anyone else thinks. That's my opinion.
Wally, it's not like he's down the list at 30. He's 14.
I'm assuming he's just, what was he?
He's 14. About 14. So it's not.
Okay, yeah, that's my point. That's why I'm giving him props here. I'm just saying that was the only one I would have had in. But I think nobody can argue that these 10 players have had a really strong start to the season. And there's no weird picks in here. And here we go. Track, Heaney, Gawn, Pickett, Butters, Bont, Grundy, Bolton, Jackson, and Watson. And
sorry,
that 10 I go.
It's Jordan Dawson.
Was he in the 10?
Yeah. Oh, you might have a different. But yeah, because he's only played 5 games, maybe he hasn't.
No. That's why. So this is the list that this was published out on social this morning. Right. I saw this. So this is it. Dawson, and Dawson's been amazing. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's there'd be a games thing there. But and you can include Dawson. You got Dacos, all of that. But I'm saying, for once, it actually made sense.
Yeah.
Which is more worrying because why doesn't it always make sense, Harro? I don't know. Anyway, that's the whole thing. So
I've got the top 20 here, and if you take out the guys who have, they've got Brent Daniels in here. He's only played 3 games, and Buslinger's played 2 games. So you take them out, the list just makes total sense to me. It really does.
They always have an anomaly, but that's Buslinger. Yeah, great. But
he's played 2 games. You can't
really go with someone with 2 games. All right. Now my outs, Harro. Just giving Champion Data a pump up. Also Champion Data because fuck them. They still obviously Adam Cherry disposal, so they'll always be an out on my selection table. So the minute they come in, they go straight out. I have not changed on that, and I will not. And pretty sure they owe us a 19th disposal on Dylan Moore on Friday night because there was a kick off the ground that they didn't get, which that's a disposal. It's not a possession, but it's a disposal, and we're backing disposal bets, not possession bets, Harro. So I'm just saying, maybe you do your job. Just do your job. That's all you need to do. All right, and the other one is an out. It's a massive out. I'm in a rare position, and all Hawthorn fans are, that they have essentially been able to see either side of what would have been a draw and what extra time may have looked at this year after coming from 2 kicks back late in the game against Geelong and Collingwood, one ending with the hitting the post and a win, one ending in a draw. But I've also been a part of, anybody that's watched Hawthorn Geelong matches over the years, far more last-minute losses. Jimmy Bartel point, Tom Hawkins after the goal, plenty of those, and some wins. I've always thought the draw was a good idea because, you know what, it's regular season. It's not deciding a result. It's a more accurate representation at the end of the year, whether you got 9.5 wins or 10 wins or 9 wins. It was just more accurate. However, I put my Richmond West Coast hat on. I put my Carlton hat on, and I go, some wins throughout the season are really, really important and keep you going. They drive momentum. I would rather half the stadium leave upset than 100% of the stadium leave with absolutely nothing. I am now completely changed. Draws need to go. I want extra time. The joy I got from the Hawthorn win against Geelong outweighs the pain I would have felt if we'd have lost to Collingwood in extra time. And that's all it is. I've seen both similar situations. It was just flattening. It was and we were the team, Harro, that stole the draw. It still didn't make me feel any better. It just didn't make me feel any better. After the game, Dylan Moore kicked a goal at the siren. That moment it was, okay, good. Well done, Diz. Happy for you. 8 ball, well done, mate. Happy that went through. Good moment for you. But I just go, well, no. America do it really well, week to week, game to game. In the EPL, a big thing is, they have draws galore, but the derbies, winning those certain derbies and certain matches means so much. I think putting extra time in the season will make more matches matter in the moment throughout the year, and that 3 or 4 times we have a draw each year, all of a sudden we get an extra added layer of excitement. I dare say it'd be pretty hard to go back and go, find a case, looking at the ladder historically, that a result would have drastically changed the end of the season results if the draws were taken away. And you don't know anyway.
I got a thought on it. I got one thought on that. I think we have 3 different rules, right? So regular season, we've got a draw. Finals, we have extra time. Yep. And then grand final, we have a replay if it's a draw.
No, it's changed now. No, extra time now, Harro.
Okay.
They have changed that finally, but we just haven't obviously seen it yet.
One.
But that has been changed, and there is extra time in the grand final now. So we've still got 2 rules. It's ridiculous that I just think we need to bring in the draw.
Just have the one rule. What we play in finals is what we play in the rest of the year. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Train how you play how you play the season in finals, blah, blah, all of that. Harro, I'm with you. We're together on this. Okay, mate. Let's get stuck into some viewer questions of social media. I can probably knock a couple of these off the top, Harro. What happened to Tabs missed by one promo? Very simply, it just would have got too expensive. So they were offering on every game. It was probably the most popular promo. It also lent itself heavily to SGMs, which we know more than half of AFL punters, that's what they're backing. And you know what? The Green Cafe obviously shit the bed and go, we're out. But, yeah, all right, it is what it is. It's a promo. It's not forever. It is obviously cost more money than they're willing to spend. It's the only thing I can think of, Harro, like, because people loved it, right? There'd be no other reason. Next one, Michael Johnson, Mick always writes in, Gold Coast and Darwin pencil them in for 2 wins over the next 2 weeks, ? Well, they've been dominant there. This is what they do. They play Saints and Port. I wouldn't be backing against them in either, but we'll dive into that when we get to the game. So we'll have a look at that in the game. Next one, is there a Discord coming? In short, yes, there is. Very happy to report a Discord is coming. I can say that now. We're just getting the details through. We're just getting the details worked through. As you can probably appreciate, Harro and I, we don't usually get involved in the construction of such a thing or whatever the setup of it. So we're getting that all sorted and done. And stay tuned very, very soon. There will be a Discord and it's exciting. And there'll be a whole heap of cool shit. So I reckon next week, Harro, I should be in a position to be able to say, this is what it looks like. This is the exact launch date, which is hopefully like right there. And this is what it would include and how we do it, which is exciting, mate. Very exciting.
Should be good,
it's what we've got a community. This is what we need. We need a place for them to all come in and be able to like have a safe space to be able to just talk absolute shit, but also share cool information. Little things like one thing I'm going to encourage in the Discord, Harro, is if you're at a game and you see someone warming up that's not in their normal group, drop it in the Discord. That is the thing. We are going to have eyes and ears on all grounds to be able to help punters make better decisions. That in itself would be something I would sign up for myself, that one thing, but there'll be a lot more. All right.
Also, Wally, I know that a lot of punters, they like our thoughts change a little bit after teams and stuff. So I think something for the Discord we could offer is like our post-teams kind of thoughts as well. So, I mean, we probably need to talk through all this, what we're actually going to offer, but,
Yeah, no, there will be all of this. But that just gives you a teaser, but it's exciting times. The Footy Form Guide family is just about to get a great place that they can all meet and talk shit. All right. Stephen, how are same-game multi-odds calculated? Because it doesn't seem consistent to me. It was deciding between two players for a fourth leg on the weekend. The player paying $1.24 gave my SGM $2.05. The one paying $1.14 gave it $2.10. New to punting, so obvious to some. What I will say, Harro, I'll throw to you after this, but the first thing is, if you have three players from the same team to have disposals, and then you put an opposing player on, even if their odds are a little shorter, that will usually increase more than putting another. So if that $1.24 player was the same as your others, but the $1.14 was from an opposing team, I know that increases the odds further. But Harro, I've never really understood it myself. I do know that if there is a correlation of going, okay, I think they're all going to go big, or if you go, I'm going these ones overs versus these unders, or multiple goal kickers into a total over point. So things that marry up. For example, if I'm going to go Jack Gunston to kick 3 goals and Mabior Chol to kick 2 goals, I'm not going to get much of a boost then for Hawthorn to go over their total points or Hawthorn to win, because I'm already saying I think there's going to be a lot of Hawthorn goals in the game. Anything for you to add to that, Harro?
I know that all the bookies kind of do it differently, and I put together an SGM, which I was considering putting out to the punters on X on Sunday, and what I noticed was I ran it through about 3 or 4 different bookies. They all came out with wildly different prices. So they're all doing it a little bit differently as well. And in the end, I just wasn't happy with any of the prices, so I didn't end up putting it out. So that's kind of, as I see it, it doesn't work out the same for every bookie, and the prices are wildly different. So just be careful and try, and if you've got multiple accounts, do try and, if you've got time, have a look at what it's paying at different bookies as well. I know the Tab is quite generous with their SGM prices, but then they've sacked a lot of people from using that product. So that doesn't sort of, work out.
I don't know
well.
anyone that can get an SGM on a Tab. I actually do not. I don't think I have a single mate that can get an SGM on a Tab. So I mean that's a perfect example of it. The other thing, Harro, is that with these, some are third party, some are in house. So some bookmakers will use a third party to do their SGMs, and then of course you will have other platforms like your BetMakers platform or BetCloud, and these platforms that have like 20, 30 bookies on, and you might not even know that they're all getting the same prices because they're all using the same back end and that. So it is, I know, look, if there was a bet sniper for SGM prices, it'd be amazing, but it's pretty hard for that to exist. So unfortunately on SGMs, if you want to get the best value, you're going to have to do the work. As Kane Corns would say, 601, get up and do the work. That's what we're going to have to do. All right.
And also, when I'm having SGM, I'm always very careful to not put any players in it that actually detract from the value. So if I put in like player A's $2 and then player B's $2, okay, it's coming up with $4, and then I add player C, who's also $2. We should be getting an $8 multi, but it could come in at $6.75. I just refuse to put anyone in who takes value out of the multi.
So do it with your calculator next year. That's the thing, 125 by 125 by 150, and make sure that you're getting something around the price it should be.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Ben, what do you consider to have more impact in outcomes? Player changes, injury, etc., or tweaks in game plan and strategy? Some coaches adapt better than others, e.g., in the showdown, Port's transitioned in the game much better. Crows probably just had better players on the field. This is a great question, Harro.
I mean, you want to try and compare what has a bigger impact. You just really need to be trying to be across both. Obviously, the player role changes and stuff, you can be across that when you're looking at the teams. And there was a few on the weekend, and sometimes you just, no chance of picking it up. Like the one that caught me off guard on the weekend was Toby Green played as a permanent forward and Lockie Ash went into the midfield. Sometimes you're going to get burnt because that one is like, how are you going to know that if you don't have any inside information or anything like that? But so it's just about, you try and work it out as best you can with the understanding that you might get caught off guard occasionally. There are guys who will never be involved in role changes and stuff like that, so you could really try and just hone in on those blokes. In terms of the styles of play, I tend to think if a team is having success with what they're doing, they're unlikely to change anytime soon. So like a team like the Demons, for instance, even though they lost on the weekend, I listened to their coach and he was really pleased with what they were doing. And so I don't expect them to change. But like a team like Carlton, I listened to their coach and they're clearly not happy with what they're doing. And he's talking about having to introduce a lot of a bigger focus on defense and things like that into their style. And so I'm thinking already, well, hang on, just having heard that, perhaps if I might have liked the over total points in that game, maybe I need to rethink that based on the potential of a bit of a change of style. So you just need to be taking in as much information as you can, watching games, looking for changes in style, and if you think it's going to play forward. And then there's also like teams. There's some teams that their style overrides the opposition. So a good example of that is you might have a pretty low disposal team, but they play Collingwood, and it just seems to be that no matter who plays Collingwood at the moment, they're their disposals are going to come up. Just because the style that Collingwood are playing, which is basically pushing so many numbers deep into the opposition's forward half, is overriding the style of whatever the other team wants to bring. So it's complicated, isn't it? And there's no real exact science. You've just got to try and keep your eye on the ball and put your coach's hat on every time you look at a game.
Yeah, great shout. I will say this on Collingwood too, Harro, that their setup, their structure has always been solid. But if you're 5% off against them, I don't care who you are. Right? They are ready to get you. That is the team you have to be set up, ready to go every time you play them. My God, they're organised. All right, our man Robbie, how early do you start locking in bets? I've noticed lately that a lot of value has gone out of the player props, especially closer to the bounce. But it can be hard to back players with confidence so early in the week. Same for lines and over-unders. Grazie. Now, Robbie, I will say this. One thing is it's the liabilities change with the books as well. So that you might be able to get a certain amount on earlier in the week, and then other times you might have to wait till later. So that is one thing you always have to be keen to keep a keen eye on. The other thing is, Harro, I think that one of the easiest ways to get blocks is to be betting too early.
Yeah.
But it's not a huge amount you can do with that. I think I'll let you talk to it, Harro, but the way I've started doing it based off like learning from you is I'm a little less worried about what it was and just saying, is it still a price or a line that I like? So don't worry about it was. If it's still a price or a line that I like, I can play in it. If I've missed the price, there's 9 games a weekend, there's hundreds of markets, you got to get over it and move on. That's me. That's what I do now.
Yeah. I don't bet early, really. Everything's on the day of the game pretty much, unless maybe I like a team line or maybe a total points. I might go a day or two before potentially, but you just risk, wrecking the value and not getting much on it is how I go about it. But on your other point, Robbie, yes, I've noticed as well a lot of the value has been sucked out of the player prop markets. Guys that were $1.40 a fortnight ago to get, say, 20, I'm seeing a lot of $1.18s and these types of prices. So you really need to box clever and don't, if the value's not there, just don't bet it. I think it's coincided a little bit with the tab taking away the +1. It's made the whole environment a little bit less competitive. So that's disappointing, and it has made things a little bit trickier. And so you probably have noticed I've been putting out less SGMs and on the channel and whatnot, just because I'm not willing to put stuff out there that's not really good value, basically. And that value has been sucked out a bit, but things evolve. So what will happen is the bookies will notice that their turnover's dropping. And they'll think, geez, like, what are we better off with? Like making 10% of 10 million, or are we better off making 7% of 20 million? As in terms of turnover is what drives revenue, really. And so they're going to have to come back to the table with some value sooner or later. So you've just got to be willing to ride it out and hopefully be a little bit more picky with your selections and still make a profit. And then things will turn back in our favour eventually.
Yeah, good stuff, Harro. Got one more, and then there's a few other questions which I'll work into the previews of each team because they're match specific. This I feel this one. Do I feel this? What advice do you have for a punter having a tough time at the moment? For context, 8 of 11 multis lost by 1, many by 1 disposal. I feel like I'm getting the research right and just getting really unlucky, frustrated, bad. I feel you so much as a punter. We all do. Harro, give us some wisdom on the way to what's your mindset when it's going like this, where you feel like you're doing all the right things, but you just feel like the punting gods are against you a bit?
Yeah, I guess you just got to keep reviewing each selection individually and making sure that that it is sort of on its merits. If you work out, geez, this guy missed, but he had a little bit lower game time this week than what I was expecting, or there's all sorts of ways you can work out whether your selection was still good even though it lost. And then I figure as well, if you start racking up a few where you go, actually, you know what, like that probably wasn't a great bet, and you rack up a few of them, it's just time to have a little breather and come back with a fresh mindset. Always helps to do it that way. But if you're working out that your selections are still good, just keep trying to make good value selections, and the tide will turn, and you'll get back on track.
Very good, Harro. Very wise as always. Now, let's get stuck into our games. As I say every week, the prices that I'm going to list here, what we do is that we take a line from one of the big books, usually somebody that was that we voted when we do the SGMs, who votes the most, whether it's Sportsbet, Tablads, whoever. Then what we do is that we take the best price available outside of the exchange and global book on Bet Sniper for these games. So if you want to know where to get these prices on the head-to-heads, head to Bet Sniper, our friends there. And Harro, I believe Footy Form Guide, we've got you get a 25% discount if you're dropping Footy Form Guide on there in the discount code. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, actually those guys are doing such good work right now. They're adding new tools all the time, and like we're a massive fan of it. So yeah, get on it, give it a go. It's 25% off your first month. And I think, after you have your first month on there, you'll be staying on. So, and the code actually is, all in caps, Footy Form Guide. So use that to get a discount.
Doesn't get any easier. And while we're doing promos, can I just tell you this? If you're listening to this and you haven't watched it on YouTube, check it out, because you get to look at us. That's a tick. There's some nice graphics on screen, all of that. Or if you're watching on YouTube and you didn't want to look at us, you can check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. But if you're on YouTube and you're not subscribing to us, fucking subscribe, would ya? We need subscribers. So, yeah, we want you to like. We want you to share, even comment if it's positive. I don't want any smoke. I just want to have fun and talk shit. But please tell your friends, get on, give us a follow, subscribe to our YouTube, and we're trying to build something big here, and it's all helpful, Harro. All right, that's enough. That's enough of me trying to sell. Let's get into the footy. Thursday night, Fremantle Hawthorn. Freo's $1.78, Hawthorn $2.10. The line's 3.5 points. This is tricky. This is tricky, Harro.
There was a question from a punter.
Yep. And how many teams have won 3 in a row on 18 days? Freo Hawks fans want to know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to know.
Our good friend Puntosaurus actually flicked me through a link from Useful AFL Stats. So I haven't even had to go and do the work on this, which is fantastic. It's only ever happened once before. So Freo are, they are actually, if they're able to do this, they'll only be the second team with having played 3 games in 18 days, or otherwise 3 6-day breaks in a row, to win all 3 games. So, what do they say? What does Hoyne say? You got to back history until history changes. Probably it's the only football show I watch outside of watching this one back to see how we went. Now, I literally can't back Freo just based on that. I actually thought that against the Doggies, I did see some signs that they were starting to wane, and their form isn't all that good right now, even though they've been winning, and that's what's most important. But against Hawthorn, I'm not really willing to back the Dockers in this one. So, and when I look at this one, Wally, I looked at what they did last year, there was nothing between them. I don't think there's anything between them here. And the fact that Freo have this, this unique sort of circumstance here where they're off 3 6-day breaks in a row. Look, I'm giving Hawthorn a slight edge, and I think if you're getting a goal start perhaps for Hawthorn around about that, it's not a big bet. I don't want to be taking on Freo at home all that often, but that's where I lean with this one. Now, what I do like here though, Wally, when I looked at
just before you move on to players, sorry to interrupt you. I'm having a look. Xander Maguire is a fucking jet, just quietly, and then Mitch Cleary's got around this as well. They have covered, and it was on the news last night that both Newcombe and Sicily have travelled to play, but they are both not. It sounds like they're not 100%. So I would be waiting until teams are announced for this. That's all I wanted to say. Definitely wait till teams are announced, and even final teams. That's been reported. Anyway, fire away.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sicily was definitely lame at the end of the game.
Shouldn't have been
week.
on the ground.
Yeah, he needed a wheelchair, in that, and it actually could have cost Hawthorn the game. That he was just useless. So yeah, I would be surprised if Sicily plays. Newcombe probably don't know what's up with him, but he'll play because he's just a bit of a warrior, isn't he? But he might not be 100%. So we'll see. It's a good point, Wally. Do wait for teams. You might get a bit of a better price on Hawthorn, or you might think, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out with Hawthorn maybe having a couple out. We'll see. But what I do like here, Wally, is last year when these two teams played, there was only 36 scoring shots in the game. It wasn't played in wet conditions, 141 points. Ratings-wise, I'm setting the total points line at about 174 here, and the line is 186.5 down to 184.5. You can get anywhere between those two numbers depending where you shop. The Hawks v Pies, it made up at bang on 186, but I looked into it a bit more. It should have made up at about 158. Hawthorn's last 5 games before that are all under 186. The Dockers, they're 4-4 at the 186 this season, but their overs have come against Geelong, Melbourne, the Dogs and Carlton. Now, take Carlton out of that. The other 3 teams are all sort of in the top few for combined scores. So everything else for Freo is under this 186 as well. So pretty keen to play the unders, mate, as the main bet in this game.
Lovely, Harro. Love that, mate. That's, very good. All right, now, next game, Brisbane Carlton, first of 2 doubleheaders, Harro, because that's what we're doing at the moment. Brisbane's $1.10, Carlton $8.50. The line's 42.5.
Yeah. That's the second of 3 6-day breaks in a row for the Lions, but they're at home and they basically played some witches' hats last week. So I don't think that they'll be, anywhere near off their tucker. So it really just comes down to me is like, do you think Brisbane will beat the 42-point line or not? It's kind of set well. They are beating teams more convincingly this season, having not had a draw in their fixture. So last year we talked a lot about them. I don't think they had a 10-goal win last year, where they've already done that once or twice this season. A lot of that was due to having had the draw. So, I think if they do get a chance to put sides away, they'll do that. But it's not a low line. And Carlton, although they're not winning games, they're not really being blown off the park. So I'm kind of just sitting out of that one a little bit. What I do like in this one is the Lions are getting a high amount of disposals week in, week out, and the Blues are actually leaking the 6th most in the comp now. And so, who's going to get them for the Lions? And I think McCluggage kind of looked like he was getting back to near his best after being a little bit sluggish coming off an injury. And he's the sort of player who probably will fancy the Blues here. Zorko, his line's 27.5. The lowest he's had all year is 27. And he had slightly low time on ground in that. And he did get 28 against the Blues last year. The other thing which I picked up on here, it's not something I'm compelled to bet on, but I'll mention it anyway. The Blues are conceding the number 1 amount of goals to rucks in the AFL. So it will be interesting to see if the Lions are across this and if they think they can also exploit the Blues, and if they get their rucks to charge forward a little bit and try and score. I know that you'll get over better. You should get better than even money for both the rucks. I think Draper's maybe the one who's been getting more shots on goal. So it's just a little thing to have a think about. Little trend I've picked up on, and not 100% certain if it'll continue. The other area I liked is we see games at the Gabba are generally high scoring, and the Lions' last 3 games are all 200 points plus. So I
Wow.
would consider the overs here, with the little caveat that I did pick up in Voss's presser that they really need to focus on defense.
Mm.
So just you got to look at both sides of every bet, and that's just something to consider.
Okay, very good. All right, the second Friday night match is Port Adelaide v Western Bulldogs. Port $2, Doggies $1.95. The line's 1.5. This is a bit of a pick'em game. Port have been really good the last few weeks. Harro, Doggies showed a lot more against Freo. Tim English back in that side's huge. We know that. Over there, this shapes up as something that could be a really fun game.
Yeah, I kind of like Port in this one. Really impressed with the way that they've turned around their early season form, and you need to change your mindset about a team. Obviously, I was pretty bearish on Port early, but you got to have flexible thinking, and they've definitely shown a lot more than what I thought they were going to, and they're looking really good. What a midfield battle. I'm really looking forward to this. Just the midfield, I think Port may be the most informed midfield in the comp right now, with Butters, Drew, Wines, and Horne-Francis all doing really well. And I like the mixture in there as well. They're not all, they kind of all suit each other. They've got the bull in Wines, the defensive mid in Drew, and then just two out-and-out guns who are both a bit different, with Butters and Horne-Francis. The Dogs, they don't really tag, so these guys are probably all, pretty good to get sort of a decent amount of possessions. Then you've got Bont, Richards, Kennedy, and Sanders. Now, Sanders did sort of follow Sarong around last week and quell his influence. I wouldn't have called it a hard tag, but he just made Sarong's life a little more difficult than previous. Now, he might try and do that with Butters, but I think Butters will just burn him off, where I don't think Sarong's got that in him. So, yeah, take that, into your thinking. But one guy I did pick up on, who has a poor record against Port is the Bont. And his line is not set low. It's set at 28.5. His last two against Port are 23 and 21. And Port are very restrictive through the midfield too. So that might be something the punters can look at. The other area which we talked to, a lot this year is the key forwards versus the Dogs. And this is like a really good matchup. I think it's number one. The Dogs are conceding number one to key forwards goals in the comp, and it's 2.5 goals, to every key forward on average. And they get Georgiades here, who's $1.83 to kick three. You look at what he's done. He's had 16 shots at goal in his last 2 weeks. So the form's there. If you actually kick straight, kind of anything's possible. And 5+ is paying $6.25. Whitlock is the other dude down there who you could look at. He's $2.25 to kick two. He's done that 4 times already this season. And 2 of his misses were zeros, goals 4 and 0-3. So they're all areas which we should be looking at, Wally. Port are the under total points kings so far this year, with 7 of their 8 games going under, but Dogs games do go awfully high. So you need to consider both sides of the bet, and maybe that puts me off having the unders, but it's worth mentioning anyway.
I'll tell you what, this is what you look at. You look at the first couple of games, and there's some angles without a huge amount. Like, so keeping your powder dry in the first couple of days for this one feels right, because there is a lot of really, really strong angles here. I love this. This is great. All right, we move from Friday on to Saturday's games. All right, the first Saturday game, North Melbourne v Sydney. The next month, we're going to know where North are at, because I don't know if you look at the draw they played them. I think they got Adelaide, they got Gold Coast. It's about to get tougher. All right, so North Melbourne's $4.25, Sydney are $1.26. The line is 27.5 points. Sydney, for the first time, didn't cover their line, so they're 7-1 on the line ladder now. But it'll be interesting to see how you think they'll go this week.
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry to oppose Sydney, mate. For mine, playing the best footy in the comp at the moment. And you listen to all the coaches' press conferences, and that's the message I'm getting from, as a bit of a consensus from the coaches who should know best, really. So, Yeah, look at this one, and look, we know Charlie Curnow, he loves this venue. Wally, this is one of your favourite bets going back over the last few years, is backing Charlie at Marvel. And I
Under the roof.
had a look at his last 20 games at Marvel, Wally. He's only managed to kick less than 3 goals on 3 occasions. So he's 17-3 for kicking 3+ at Marvel. His only game for the Swannies, he kicked 7-4. So, Charlie for 3 or more is potentially a play. Not the easiest opponent, but you got to back him when he's at Marvel. I'd like to see O'Sullivan have a crack at playing on Heaney. This guy's, I talk about him every week, how much of, I've almost got a man crush on Isaac Heaney, I'll be honest, Will. He's that good. You don't agree with that? God, he's good.
No, almost is bullshit, Harro. You do have a man crush. You love him. Well, mate, this has gone beyond almost man crush. He would have to be your favourite player, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's my favourite player.
And I'm not even, you can include Carlton players. He'd be your favourite player, wouldn't he?
Oh, mate, I don't know if a Carlton player would get in the top 20, would they? That's like, let's be honest. So they actually tried to quell him with Sparrow on the weekend, and Sparrow's he's a little terrier and a good little player, and he couldn't even get near Heaney, mate. He was just way too strong for him. I was watching some of the stoppage work, and he just knows where to be at the right time, and he hits it at pace. Anyway, so it'd be a great opportunity for O'Sullivan to try, but he's just not getting near him. So the other guy here, Wally, we want to look into is Sheasel, coming off a tag. Maybe the first time he's been tagged when Mullen went to him, and he kept him to 20. And as long as James Jordan doesn't go to him here, I think he'll cover his 29.5 because he's done it 10 of his last 12 games, which includes the tag. So long as Jordan doesn't go to him, which you need to think maybe he will, maybe he won't. That's worth having a look at. North are going really well at Marvel. So I'm not too keen on opposing them here. Also, the line is set really high for the total points at 192.5. But a lot of Swannies games are going over that. I could only be under it, but I'm not racing in to bet it. So otherwise, mate, looking forward to sort of lining the teams up here and hopefully coming up with some more after teams are out.
Okay, very good, Harro, mate. We'll move on to the next game on Saturday here, and we've got GWS Essendon. The Giants are $1.11. Essendon's $8. The line's 43.5, which is a big line. But I mean, GWS each week, it feels like they just keep getting a little bit back, and they're just looking a little bit better each week. And tough to go up to the Gold Coast in those conditions and win, but they still, they put up a pretty good fight, and there was some good signs. Life's just not getting any easier for the Bombers, is it?
No, the Bombers are struggling. I didn't mind their performance. I know they lost by 65 points, I think, but I didn't. They showed a lot more fight. They clearly had a look at the week before, and they saw there was a few guys in their midfield who actually weren't up for the contest, and they moved them out of the team, and that put Durham back in the middle, who does have a crack, and so that was good, good for them, and they looked a little bit better in there. But the Giants, as you say, Wally, they're getting better week on week, and I know that they weren't able to win on the weekend, but they weren't far out of it really. And the week before, beating North Melbourne, that form line isn't too bad. North are quite decent. They were good against Sydney. I know the margin says 41 points. But like a closer look at that one, it was they had actually more scoring shots, 23 scoring shots to Sydney to 26. So
they blew them out late. Harro, they blew them out late too. The game was on.
Yeah. So I'm keen on GWS here. I do think that they're getting better. They're getting players back on the park. Don't underestimate how, also having injuries in the run of the game. Like I know Hogan was there on the weekend, but he was banged up. Like he had split webbing, he had a corky to his hip, and like things just aren't quite going right for them right now. But they're getting their players back. They're getting organised, and I listen to their coach, and I think they're going to be coming good. And I'm actually thinking that they're going to pull off some upsets in the next month or so if they can keep everyone healthy. And having said that, Wally, I had a look. They're $1.83 to make the top 10. They're definitely in the best 10 sides. So I think that's not a bad, if you want to have a little futures bet, that could be good. This should be a disposal festival. And so it's a game you probably, maybe only Bombers fans want to watch it, but from a punting point of view, this is a really good one to get involved in. The Dons are averaging 401 disposals against, and the Giants are averaging like 396 themselves, which, a lot of people might add that up and go, oh, okay, so you're going to have the Giants on for, 400. And it doesn't work like that. The Dons are actually conceding plus, say, 25 over the AFL average. So I'm expecting that the Giants are going to go maybe more like 25 over their own average and have something like 430 disposals. They're using a lot of handball as well. So, look to back those guys. One thing that's happened here is, looking at Ash has gone into the midfield. And not that Lachie Whitfield didn't already have a great role, but he's getting all of the kickouts now with Ash out of there. And it's kind of maybe strengthened his role a little bit. It's a good area as well of the ground to play against Essendon, so Whitfield should have heaps of it. The two gun mids who are getting a lot of footy at the moment, Callahan and Oliver, should get heaps of it. I know the wingers go well against Essendon as well, and one of my little favourite players is Harvey Thomas. Really enjoy his work, mate, and he's had a couple of lowish weeks. He could really find a good bounce back spot here. So, happy to look into him. Not saying he's a bet, but just wanted to give him a shout out. 2 metre Peter, he's turned his form around, hasn't he? He's been unbelievable since that game which they won against the D's at Gather Round, and he's been moved into a permanent ruck role. And he's shown a lot, mate, and I didn't know he had it in him, actually. So, really good to see him going well. I think that we'll see GWS cover the line here, and I think that we'll see, with these types of games, the total points should go quite high as well, Wally. I haven't got the line in front of me, but if it's anything around that 185, I'll be happy to go over that too.
Okay, very good, mate. So if 185 is the line, Harro, you're saying you go over. I'll just tell the punters what it is now. I'll just get that up. So the over total points at the moment is 193.5. So it's set pretty high.
Okay. Maybe you want to consider it. Yeah. Probably leave that alone.
That is high, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
Yep. Okay. There you go. Would you include Lachie Ash in your disposal bets as well?
No, I'm probably wanting to have another look at him in this role. And so it's a bit of a role change.
Callahan, Thomas, and Whitfield.
Yeah, those guys are all in good spots.
And stay tuned on our socials. Like we try and find things to put out there if anything happens. And again, after teams and that. But keep an eye on that over the weekend. All right, Harro, the next game for us is Gold Coast v St Kilda. This is up in the Territory. Obviously, they play back-to-back games up there. And one of the questions we had was who will benefit playing in Darwin. It's been typically inside mids, hasn't it? So that was from James. And we spoke about Gold Coast run out there. Gold Coast $1.45, St Kilda's $3.02. Saints have been pretty good the last month. The line's 17.5. This is a different beast up there. We see teams go up there. They did a number on us. They did a number on Geelong, recently. They just go up there. They play the conditions well, and they usually bank 8 points. So I'd be interested to hear the angles here, Harro.
Yeah, I did look at this, Wally, and so they've been going up there for 4 years now. This is the 5th. I don't think they've been beaten at the line in any of those 8 games. They're 8-0 in terms of win-loss. I can just run through them really quickly. Like 2025, they beat the Dogs and the Hawks up there, who were both in good form at the time. 2024, 2 10-goal wins versus North and the Cats. 2023, they beat the Dogs and the Crows, who were both well ahead of them on the ladder at the time. 2022, they beat the Hawks and North, both by 10 goals plus. So the terms of, they absolutely love it up there. And I actually think, Wally, that they base their whole season around being on at this sort of for this little strip of games, and I don't think they would have changed it because it's worked for them. The other thing, like, it's a little bit, it does get a bit sweaty and slippery up there, and they get to train in those conditions all year round. We saw what it was like at the Gold Coast on Sunday night with that bit of dew, and so they're well acclimatised to these types of conditions. They also play a really direct meter. I think they're the number one meters gain side in the AFL, or number two, and I think that really suits as well these types of conditions. The Saints have never played a Darwin game, or not in the last 5 years, which would all matter anyway. I kind of feel like the Saints are around GWS's level, and we saw the Suns beat GWS by 20 points. You give them a little bit extra here, the Suns, for the advantage of the ground. I do feel like the Suns are getting a little bit better after showing some poor form in the last month. And so I'm really keen to back GWS here at the minus 17.5, given the record they've got at the venue. The 192.5 is a mighty high line, considering that we're going to get some dew, and it could, I just think with those types of lines, if there's anything wrong with the conditions or anything can go wrong, then it's probably you got to be leaning to the under, but mainly focused here on the Gold Coast, mate. And wanted to bring up one guy, and Dimmer brought him up in his presser, and he said he's almost the best he's seen in this role that he's playing. And you got to think that he was Vlosten's coach. And the job that Bodie Allwand is doing at the moment for Gold Coast Suns, haven't heard too much talk about him, but he should be in All-Australian contention. I had a look. There's not really any All-Australian markets out at the moment, but if they come back out, he's a guy I'd want to look at. And once the media pick up on it and start talking about him a bit, I think Dimmer's now brought him up in a press conference. He's going fantastically well. He just doesn't get beaten, wins his own footy, uses it really well. So Bodie Allwand, keep an eye out for him.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're having a bet on disposal markets and you think you're getting a huge price for Bodie, just make sure you're looking at the letter ahead of the surname, because he's got a brother as well. And some of us may have done that after a couple at the pub once, I'm just saying, and thought they were getting a bigger price. So I'm just saying, always when you've got, this is another, it was, Henry, Hollins, like there's teams that have the two brothers and you think price is too good to be true. Just check that first letter, Harro, just a bit of a PSA there.
Also, there's the one that you made me aware of the other day as well, the CMAC at Hawthorn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if we're talking on backing players, there's two CMACs at Hawthorn, but Connor McDonald's Croc and Cam McKenzie CMAC. So if we're talking to either of those. Now, Harro, the one thing I will say about the line is I'm petrified in touching a line up there, because that Geelong game 2 years ago you mentioned, I reckon there was like 240 points or something ridiculous scored. Both teams scored over 100, and it was a 10-goal win. It was huge.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, 100% I remember that. Look, you're right, Wally. They have gone. There have been some high ones in recent times up in Darwin. Yeah. So
I'm not saying you're back to overs. I fear backing unders. Anyway, we move on, mate. Looking forward to getting around the Suns on Saturday. Next game, Geelong Collingwood, and I know you like this one. Geelong's $1.56, Collingwood's $2.50. The line's 11.5, 12.5. Like the 11.5's disappearing before our eyes. It's available. But I'm just saying, I'm seeing 12 more than 11. So I just want to call that out. But you can get 11.5 at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Pies, they're an interesting one, aren't they? Because they keep finding a way to be in games when they're mostly being dominated. And we saw that on the weekend with Hawthorn having 10 more scoring shots, winning expected scoring by 40. 75 more disposals, 28 more inside 50s. They won clearances by 16, contested possession by 30. You look at all the numbers, and that just shouldn't have been a close contest. And look, I do like to take these false sort of wins, I guess you could say, because this sort of stuff averages out over time. You can't keep putting up those numbers and getting results. It just doesn't work like that. And I feel like Geelong, they're a team that make very few mistakes. Yeah. And I feel like they're the right type of opponent to sort of take advantage of Collingwood, just because they don't make a lot of mistakes. They actually prey on opposition mistakes better than just about anyone else. And so I'm very keen on the Cats here, mate. I've liked everything that the Cats have been doing in all but 2 games, and I feel like that those 2 games were games that they didn't really show up in, and they were both away interstate. Now, the Cats, they're not going to fail to show up in a big game at the MCG against the Pies, is the way I see it, where maybe when they're interstate, like they were in round 0 or 1 or whatever it was, perhaps that they maybe don't aim up for those types of games. They'll be aiming up for this one. And I think that they're going to be very hard to beat. And so I like the Cats. Their form's better, basically. Interested to see how Dacos goes here. Is there anyone else that Mullen could go to?
He'd be mad to go to anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, the only problem is just, I don't know. Dacos finds a way, but like, yeah, you have to. I mean, we're talking best player by so far. Like you have arguably the best tagger shutdown runner in the competition. Just it writes itself.
Yeah. So one thing I've noticed, I have been following the tags quite closely, Wally, and Dacos actually hasn't been tagged this year. So whether so we're getting maybe a higher number because he hasn't had any attention, and you compare that to, say, Naz has been tagged every week, even by sides who don't tag like normally. So they've been trying to find a player to play on Naz. Even like Port Adelaide, they stuck Burgoyne on him. And so anyway, look, I'll be interested to see. I could only be under the 30 disposals for Dacos, with the factor of Mullen in play. And actually, Mullen did tag him, not for the whole game last year, but for part of the game. He kept him to 28, which I know is getting up there still. Like, it's a bloody good effort to still have 28. So, but you'd have to be under him, wouldn't you, with that Mullen aspect.
Was that the game where he shook the tag in the last quarter and had 17 disposals last year? There was a game last year where he got tagged for 3 quarters, wasn't really a feature. Actually, it might not have been that, and then he just blew him away in the last quarter. So, I think he had more total that, but I can't quite remember. Anyway, all right, so Geelong at the line, very keen on that. And a watch for Dacos backers. We're not saying definitely under, but a watch for Dacos backers. Consider that if you usually want to back him for over disposals. What else you got, Harro?
Well, Bailey Smith coming off a tag, like Simpkin went to him on the weekend and did a really good job. Bailey Smith, you take that out, he's been getting truckloads of the footy. He had 34 against the Pies last time. And so his line is 31.5. He's been clearing that before he had the tag. And I think that he'll get that. And I would even have a little look at like the 40, which I can try and find that for you.
It's all right, I'll get it for you, Harro.
Yeah. So I just think it's a little chance, the way that the Pies are conceding so much footy right now. That could definitely happen. Also, a lot of the Cats players here, they're coming off a low week against North, and North we know are really restrictive. And so like a guy that we were under last week in Tom Stewart, he now gets a pretty good matchup, and his line's dropped a couple, and he's down to 21.5, so you look to go the other way on him and play his overs. So, look, I think there's a lot, just like all Collingwood games, mate, there's going to be lots of opportunities to find some good disposal bets in this one. It's going to, like we saw Hawthorn, Yeah, we
Yeah, well,
already
I was
talked about it before. I think they had out of
eight.
the out of the 10 or so guys that they put lines up on, I think 8 of them went over.
Yeah,
So
and like everyone in that back half. See, I don't know if Sicily hit because of the injury, but everyone else in the back half went over, right?
yeah,
And well
Sicily
over
and
two.
Moore. Sicily and Moore missed.
Well,
And
Moore
we
got
know,
it. Moore got his line. Just wasn't paid.
yeah.
He had 19 disposals. The line was 18 and a half, I believe, wasn't it? Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
and Sicily also, he got 22, I think, but with the injury. So,
Mm.
take that into your thinking
Yeah.
too.
Harro, $2.88 for 35 disposals, $6 for 40 for Bailey Smith. $6 feels like a nice price to find out. You can take I think it's $5.50 or something for the 39 if you want to play. Like if you think, what if he misses by one? But the point is, there's plenty of value in that market if we think he can go big. But like that a lot, mate. All right, Harro, let's move on to the Sunday. And obviously with the doubleheader Friday, we just have the 2 Sunday games. It's Mother's Day, Harro. So I always say Mother's Day, if you always look after your mother, flowers, wine, lunch out, dinner, whatever. But just a PSA that I always say to everybody, just remember, if you're married, if you have a partner and you've got kids and those kids are young, Mother's Day falls on your shoulders, so don't fuck it up. And the biggest thing for this is, Harro, don't have too big of a Saturday night and just do what your wife wants to do, not what you want to do. As I always say, the Hawthorn flag replays in my house are for Father's Day, Harro, not Mother's Day. So good luck to all of those trying to get through and keep our wives and partners happy on Sunday. All right, Melbourne take on West Coast. Melbourne's $1.11, which makes sense. West Coast are $7, Harro. And the line on this one is 43.5 points. Now, we're not quite back to their favourite time slot, which is 3:15 Sunday at the G, but it is 1:10 on Sunday. So it's still a Sunday arvo, which we know the D's have been great this year. It's a big line, but the D's they've looked pretty bloody good.
Yeah, they have, haven't they? They're doing amazing,
Yeah.
and I'm really enjoying their work. And it's amazing what a bit of change of culture and a change of coach can do. And you think that so many people were really bearish, weren't they, on the D's, given the fact that they lost May, Oliver, and Petraka.
Me included.
Yeah.
I got him completely wrong, and I didn't know what to expect. Stephen King is coming, and he's just doing an incredible job. And the players. The other thing is, I didn't know Cozzy Pickett was going to go to this level this quickly. I didn't realise he was going to. I knew he was going to be a gun, but he has gone to top 5 mid in the comp out of being a small forward that did some midfield time last year. The guy's a freak.
He's unbelievable. Yeah,
so good to watch.
I think it's always hard because you never know what goes on inside footy clubs, and the most important thing isn't who you trade in and trade out. It's the commitment towards the coach's plan and the camaraderie amongst the group. All of these things, they're the most important things in what makes up a good footy team. And Melbourne seem to have that in spades at the moment, and so it's really good to watch. He's giving them a license and they're just going out there and playing. And how entertaining is it, Wally? I think, what was the makeup? 240-point game or something against the Swans.
So much fun.
It's good to watch,
they
isn't it?
came back at the end. Harro, do you know what this? Do you remember a couple of years ago when Hawthorn started 0-5, and not to always bring it back to the Hawks, but I watched more Hawks footy than anything. So, and we started playing and winning games all of a sudden, and won 12 the next 13, and everyone was talking about how much fun we were having. This is them. They look like they're having so much fun. They're fast. They're enjoying their footy. It's so exciting. They just love being out there, and they're the most exciting team to watch. Cozzy Pickett's the most exciting player to watch. They're just as a fan base, you'd be absolutely happy. And I know that they've spoken a lot about culture that people sort of laughed at previously, but I think if someone spoke about the Melbourne team culture now, you go, yeah, they look like they've got a great team culture.
100%.
A great team culture.
Yeah. So look, I look at this one, and there's the obvious spots where you want to play. It's like rucks against West Coast, but I'm a little bit wary of that with Melbourne now playing the second ruck and Maxi getting rested up forward a bit. So you could maybe look to Maxi's goals Instead, I know you're pretty nervous watching him line up for goal, aren't you? He's all over the shot.
Coming out straight in front. Oh, shit.
Yeah. But he's getting shots on goal at the moment with them playing the second ruck. And it was really obvious on the weekend when Myercheck went out as well that Max went forward more. So keep an eye out on teams for that one. They don't really have a history of burying teams right now, and their form's quite inconsistent. They're playing really good against the good sides, but then they are dropping the ball a little bit when they play the lesser side. So, look, forced to bet, I probably would back Melbourne to cover the line, but I'm probably not going to bet it, just with how up and down their form is. From a disposal point of view, like they don't have a high disposal sort of style. And so perhaps even though it's indicated, West Coast, to oppose them in terms of possessions, I may even look to play some West Coast players more so with the D's playing such a direct style of footy. The West Coast backs, Walley, like you've got your Duggins down there. They had the young fella who had 30 a couple of weeks ago. I've forgotten his name. Lindsay. He got the Rising Star. He might be well indicated here. And then also your mid forwards are going really well against the D's, and we've seen that before. And Liam Baker is now playing that high half forward role. So he could be someone that West Coast are also looking to get more into the play as well. And look, outside of that, Wally, I don't have a heap more. We might have to have a look at the teams and come back to this one later. Okay, doesn't look like a huge betting game, though. Especially everyone's going to be out for lunch and doing Mother's Day stuff. I mean, is there anyone really going to be sitting at home at 1:10 on a Sunday, watching this one?
D's fans, mate. So this is the thing: is that if you're a D's fan, take your mum to the game. That's it. Go enjoy it. Great way to spend the afternoon for you, anyway. All right, last game is Richmond V Adelaide. Richmond V Adelaide. Richmond's $6. Adelaide's $1.15. The line's 35.5. This wraps our round up. Harro?
Yeah, my first port of call here, Wally, went to it straight away, was probably the inside mids for Adelaide. And we saw, Tim Kelly have 30 against Richmond on the weekend. I don't remember the last time Tim Kelly had 30. It's 7 above his average. You go back a couple of weeks and, Cozzy 29, Sparrow 28, which is like 9 above his average. Sheasel 39, Finn Callahan 37, Toby Green 29. Like the list goes on. Inside mids against Richmond is where we want to be in this one. And we probably get Dawson returning here. You can look at a guy like Rankin, actually got a lot more time in the midfield going back to last week. So that might continue and he might get a bit of a bump up as well. Sam Berry, we saw him have a career best game. I do feel like the Crows are coming good. And, what confidence a big win in a derby can do without your skipper. They should only be improving, the Crows. And I think that they'll, Richmond, we look at Richmond and yes, they beat West Coast. I think you have to go back to round 1 when they played Carlton to find a game where they didn't get beaten by 40 plus. So I think the line's in the mid-30s here. So happy to play the Crows, mate, and also look to stack up some of their midfielders and even their defenders. Like you go the defensive side of things, and Richmond are especially the general defenders. Like you're looking at your your Worrells, these types of guys.
Malira goes back there as well.
Yeah, Malira. I was actually under him on the weekend and he got me. But so, look, there's plenty there, Wally. I think should be a good game to finish the round.
Very good. All right, Harro, you've been great as always, mate. Let's go. Our best bet of the round is?
We're going to go with the Cats, mate, to win by 2 goals plus. Not many times I've put the Cats up as my best, but this just proves to Cats fans that I put my money before my bias, and I'm happy to back them. If you wanted a second best bet, it would be Gold Coast, mate, up at Darwin. But I'm going to go with the Catters.
All right, very good. All right, that's us for another week. Enjoy the footy punters. Enjoy your Mother's Day this weekend as well, and make sure you get around your mums. We wouldn't be here without them, as they say. See you next week, Harro. Have a good one. Imagine what you can be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.